So, in Barcelona, there are many residents who feel that tourism is why their cost of living has increased. And in some respect, it may actually be true. So, an example, there are a lot of landlords who will then get rental properties, which like Airbnb, so on and so forth, that allow tourists to come in and then rent. In renting those apartments, they're able to rent at a higher rate than that of what they would rent to, let's say, a resident. The challenge with that is, if you're a landlord or someone who owns property, it may benefit you financially to decide that you're going to maybe rent your property only to tourists and not residents, simply because you're able to get a better rate, and perhaps tourists are willing to pay a specified rate because they're only staying short term, whereas they may not be comfortable paying that rate if they were to be living there on a permanent basis. For that reason, you do see a lot of protests going on, and with that, there are a lot of residents who are angry about the increases in rent. The fact that those rates are now being used as comparable rates, and other rationale to increase rates for residents who are actually living there. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments if you feel this is an appropriate action or something that the residents there should be doing, or if you feel that it's something that'll only last short term, and perhaps as time goes on, it's something that will perhaps even out and things will be a-okay. I have not seen the reports. It has been seen that the residents in Barcelona have put up to tourism. And this is an interesting piece. Now, a variety of places, of course, will have their challenges as it comes through with different things, whether it's tourists who come and end up causing problems like riding on the Colosseum, or if it ends up being tourists that come to certain areas and are not necessarily privy to the rules and regulations or laws in those other countries. And of course, those can be a challenge. With this particular one, it has been seen that tourists who are coming to Barcelona, especially in the city, are facing threats, being squirted with water guns, or other fears where it's saying that where tourists are perhaps having concern or fearing for their safety. And this is definitely one of those things that you will see as you go around and as you continue your travels. As a former airport employee and world traveler, I have definitely heard a lot of stories and definitely experienced a lot of things myself, and I am here to be able to share those with you, as well as those tips and tricks on things that the airlines and other big industries may not want you to know. If that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you're notified when I have a future upload. So, here in Barcelona, you will see here some attachments of individuals who are just regular tourists and going on about their business. What they have experienced over the last several days and prior have been like squirted with water guns, or perhaps yelling or chanting during like tourist or protest, and of course otherwise just being disturbed. And I don't know about you, during my trips and travels, I don't want to be disturbed. Not for nothing, to be able to travel is a luxury. It is an expensive luxury at that. And for that reason, it is something that anyone traveling during their time should be able to enjoy their time with their families and other loved ones that they're traveling with. With that being said, definitely stay safe. And however, keep a few things in mind. So one, where you're going to go travel, maybe perhaps if you're going to go to Barcelona, maybe go visit, of course, Barcelona, that maybe you don't want to stay in Barcelona. It seems to be, of course, that the protesters were specifically disturbing individuals who were like out at restaurants, maybe shopping, other local events that's going on in the city, and not specifically areas outside of the city. So in that particular situation, if you do have an upcoming travel going to Barcelona, maybe perhaps consider staying on the outskirts of the city, or maybe just staying out of the city altogether, and then perhaps coming in, doing your activities, your day-to-day stuff, and then leaving. That could be a potential one too. Don't go around alone. This is definitely one of those. I would probably say take a buddy. In a situation where I've seen some of the outlets and other reporting, and of course feedback from some of the tourists that were there, encountering especially not only a group of people, but one being another country, and then two being a group of people that for whatever reason are unhappy with you or don't like you, can be frightening, even if you are a confrontational person. I have truly been blessed to have not experienced too many events abroad, or even in the States and traveling other places, but it's definitely not great. So definitely take a buddy. 3, be vigilant. Definitely be vigilant and see what's going on in and around you. Of course, in some of these outlets that you will see, in some of the images that we will be adding in here, That's not everybody. Those are not all the tourists that were going on that were there at the time, of course. And of course, there were several tourists that came and mentioned that they had no issues whatsoever. But it is something to be mindful of. And 4, perhaps consider if it's still a location that you want to go to. Department of State will have an update on their website for their travel advisory. And their travel advisory is definitely something very important and something that you should look at when planning your travel, and also maybe a few weeks to a month or so before your actual travel, because a lot of people do plan a year or maybe longer in advance, and at that point in time everything could be fine. But then maybe a month, 2 months or so before, something could happen, and maybe you want to consider or reconsider your travel plan. So an example, I had a relative was getting married. It was in a particular country. It's a destination wedding, and with certain things that ended up happening with the pandemic, and also the update in the travel advisory with the Department of State, I decided personally for myself not to go. For those reasons, I was able to make a best educated decision on how to move forward, if you will. So, in the travel advisory, you will see a number. The number will represent whether the Department of State says either do not travel, as in we don't recommend you travel there for said reasons, or because we're at conflict, or they have conflict with another country, don't travel. Then there's proceed with very extreme caution. Extreme caution is like, hey, things have happened, but it potentially maybe have not affected, certain groups of people. If it hasn't affected, Americans, or haven't affected, travelers, or haven't affected, the general population of people traveling to this area. It's one of those you can consider as a travel, but you probably shouldn't. That's usually in and around the 3 category. Then you'll have, of course, no travel warnings or anything to report. That's the best situation. So if they have no travels or whatsoever to report, that's saying, hey, we're A-okay, we have good rapport with that country or entity, and then move on, go about your life. Then, of course, you have travel with like normal precaution. And that's what you'll find a lot of countries will fall under, that travel with normal precaution, and saying, hey, you could get robbed if you leave yourself vulnerable. And that's also one of those things about what you should bring, what you shouldn't bring with you when you're traveling. Again, especially being a former airport employee, I have seen it all. A lot of people, an example, do get engaged when they go abroad, and certain tips and tricks about how to be able to, conceal some of those items on your travel. So I will have that video coming out soon for you, and I will also be able to explain what has worked for a lot of travelers and some issues that a lot of travelers, including myself, have experienced. If you've enjoyed the content so far today, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this video here. And also, if you have a future upcoming trip to Barcelona, what are you planning to do? Are you going to decide to maybe do something on the outskirts of the city, or are you going to perhaps maybe push your trip to Barcelona maybe to a different point in time and maybe go somewhere else? I'm definitely interested in that, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.